Hello, it is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. Good morning. It is a beautiful day here in Arizona. I hope you are having a beautiful day wherever you are at today. I have a very exciting guest. He's actually back again. I had him on before, and today we've got him back again, and we are going to have a lot of fun. Jeffrey Wolfe is going to come and tell us about why we need to perform or perish with his new book. So before I bring him on, let me get started with the intro video. Here we go. Hello, hello, hello. It is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. I believe the American dream belongs to all of us, and not only can you achieve it, but you can go beyond. I have a wonderful guest coming on today, and he is definitely an American dream maker. Jeffrey Wolfe has worked with technologies as mature as milling raw lumber to as advanced as virtual reality. He has incorporated new technologies into companies with teams as small as 14 people and as large as 65,000 people, always to increase profits while making jobs safer and more enjoyable. With the radical changes forced on businesses by the great lockdown and now the explosion of the new AI-based tools, Jeffrey has been bringing entrepreneurs best practices for thriving while their competition stumbles. He is the founder of Adventure CEO and the author of Perform and Perish, producer of Wolf's Watch live streams. If you haven't seen Wolf's Watch live streams, you need to jump on the train and watch Wolf's Watch live stream, which I love that name. So please welcome Jeffrey Wolfe. Yay, Jeffrey!
Zena, thank you so much, Zena. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I love your show open. That is what, but it's true to your brand, right? Inspirational. It's just.
Thank you.
This is truly a good day. Truly a good day.
I appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk about your new book, Perform or Perish. I love the title. Love the title. How did you come up with that title? Did you just like wake up one morning and said, I'm going to write a book?
I asked a lot of people. I tested some. To be honest, I reached out to you and other people and got feedback on different things we're thinking about. And it came back to, it's based on a true case study. Is the case study that I'm really the most proud of from my consulting years. And it really reflects the situation that we were in. Perform or perish, the 30-day race to save a company. We either had to perform or the company was going to close. So it truly was a perform or perish situation.
Wow. And how long ago was this case study?
This was several years ago. So it was well before the great lockdown, and the company is still operating, by the way, which I went back and checked on that as we were getting the book out. I thought, because it's a client that I haven't talked to in a long time. We finished that engagement and handed it off to them and moved on. And they're still,
Wow.
even though they would have closed, they are still there several years later, operating in an environment. It's a manufacturing company, and they're in the city of Los Angeles, which is not particularly that friendly towards manufacturing companies. They would prefer to not have industrial companies operating there for a lot of reasons, environment being one.
That's interesting. Well, before we take a dive into this book and case study, for those that may not know who you are now, I am so grateful that you came on again for the second time to this show, because I know you are super duper busy. And so for those that may not had a chance to watch the first show with you, give us a background of who you are and how you got to be where you're at today.
Well, I'm a recovering engineer. I went into engineering because at the time they were hiring. And if I they said, look, come to our engineering program. If you go to school year round, you can graduate in 3 years. And we have a placement program that right now is putting people into high paying jobs. About 93% of graduates within 90 days of graduation. And it's like, sign me up. So it wasn't like a lifelong dream or a career goal. I was just looking for something that would, I could have a decent living and be able to ride my motorcycle and go on runs on the weekends and have some toys, but didn't really have a big vision for life. And I got a job offer to move from the Midwest to Los Angeles to work for Hughes Aircraft, which was kind of Howard Hughes was kind of the Elon Musk of his era in a lot of ways. And
Wow.
I couldn't turn that down. I'm a Midwest kid. I really wanted to stay in the Midwest. My undergraduate was in electronics, and I hadn't intended. A lot of my colleagues that after graduation moved to Silicon Valley, and I didn't want to move out to the West Coast. I wanted to stay close to family. Couldn't, when Hughes said, "Hey, we'll offer, we got a job for you," I could not say no, because I grew up reading about Hughes Aircraft. I was always fascinated by Howard Hughes's life story. Love reading biographies. And I had a long, tough conversation with my dad because my mom had passed away while I was in college, and I felt like I was abandoning him. And he's like, "Look, I can't tell you what to do. This is a tough call. You have to make it on your own." And he made it clear that he goes, "Look, don't stay just because you don't want to move away from me." He goes, don't use that as an excuse. Make the choice that you think is best for your reasons. And put me on a plane to LA during in 1984, which now I'm starting to date myself, but age wise, I moved to Los Angeles right in the middle of the LA Olympics.
Wow. That had to have been something else.
Phenomenal. Oh, I'm staying at a hotel. So I spent my first 2 weeks in LA staying in a hotel, the Hilton Hotel, actually, at Los Angeles International Airport. So I would go to work in the morning, and I'm going down the elevator with the American boxing team. I come back from work, go up to change for dinner, and I'm going up in the elevator with, the Italian soccer team or some other country's team members and people from all over the world. And I'd never even seen an ocean when I moved down here.
Wow.
Right? I mean, I'd been on the Great Lakes, so I'd seen big water, but it was just such a different environment. And it was like, flip a light switch and it's stepping into a whole new world. It made it really exciting though, because I got to talk from people all over the world. I'm eating in the hotel restaurant and, talking with people that had traveled to come to the Olympics and just had amazing conversations. So it really put a fine point on what a transformational opportunity that move was. And I know you've experienced phenomenal transformation in your life, part of your personal journey, having made big moves as well. So it was a life changer. And, I mentioned riding motorcycles. I'm a little bit of a rebel. So I happened to join a team that had a somewhat of a rebellious, disruptive mission within the company at the time. That gave me a way to build a career around being rebellious and asking, "Hey, why can't we do things this way?" And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, and I take it you were single at this time when you moved to LA.
Yes.
You were not married?
Yes.
Okay. So that is quite an adventure.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And like you said, not seen the ocean before? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Landed in an apartment 2 blocks off the beach in Manhattan Beach. It's like I could hear the waves at night when the windows were open in the summertime. Unbelievable. So it was nice. I went, go ahead.
I said, were you just pinching yourself, wondering if you were dreaming?
Absolutely. I mean, in February, I used a pickaxe to dig the ice out of the driveway apron to go to work. In July, I'm playing volleyball on the beach every night after work. And I'm like, thank you, God, I have come home. I was pinching myself and very aware of how blessed that was, especially living in Los Angeles and only being 15, 20 minutes from work. And I lived close to work. That was the last time I ever lived that close to work.
Well, and the 80s too. I mean, 1984, moving out there, I would say that was probably a prime time to be out in LA before it got really super crazy on so many levels. So you got to, I'm envious. You got
Mhm.
to really enjoy Southern California at its prime, I believe. So that's cool.
Well,
Very cool.
and the beach communities were still, many of the beach communities were still very much beach communities, classic California style, like we see in the movies, beach communities. Now they're much more formal, but it's changed a lot. Things change over time. We had the riots in 92, 93. So I was in the riot zone working cleanup for 2 days. Only got shot at once, which was a good thing.
Oh my gosh.
So
And you didn't run
it's
away? You didn't run away from LA after that incident?
no, no. Well, at that time, I mean, so it would have been, I'm sorry, that would have been 93, 94. I'd already bought a house.
Okay.
And so I had roots, which made it, now it's that starts to make it when you own a house. Then by the end of the 90s, I was married. Then it's a very different decision to say, hey, let's pick up and move to a different state or a different region within the country.
Right. Well, I think that just demonstrates resiliency, that you developed resiliency, coming out, having the adventure, and then really, like you said, getting rooted. But then when obviously a situation that probably was, scary. I mean, coming from a small town, and then you're in the middle of riots and watching, not only just watching on TV. I mean, it was horrible watching this happen on TV, but to experience it where your home is.
Yeah, I mean,
You
so the riots, it gives me goosebumps because one of the memories I have from the riots was driving through downtown LA on the interstate, and there was no one on the freeway. There were like two other cars on the freeway, and it's normally bumper to bumper, classic, stop, move. And we're driving 90 miles an hour. There's smoke wafting across the freeway. I'm listening to the AM radio for traffic reports. The radio announcer is saying, stay off of that freeway. There's reports of sniper fire from the overpasses. A police car comes down an entrance ramp. And I'm like, great, now I'm going to get a ticket in the middle of all this. We're already going 90 miles an hour. The only reason I remember that is I thought, oh crap, because it was still a 55-mile-an-hour zone. I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm going to get pulled over. Cop went by like I was parked on the side of the road, jumped off at the next, got back off the freeway at the next exit. It's like, okay, we're going to keep moving. We're not stopping. So it was very, very scary.
Yeah.
That night I couldn't use that freeway to get home. Everything was shut down. Took almost 4 hours to make what was normally a 45-minute, maybe hour and 10 with traffic to get home. And I remember I stopped. Some of us stopped and pulled over and just looked at it. All you could see from downtown LA to Long Beach, looking to the east, there's a section of the 405 freeway, San Diego freeway through LA, West LA, that's raised. And all you could see in the east was just this wall of fire and smoke from LA to Long Beach.
Oh.
And, it wasn't, looking at the news reports in hindsight, it wasn't that dramatic, but it looked like it was nonstop wall of fire from just south of downtown LA all the way to Long Beach. And just like, I just stood there, there's another guy who's parked maybe 10, 20 yards down from me. I remember we turned and we looked at each other and both of us just have our mouths hanging open, like going, oh man, where's this going to go?
Right.
2 days later, I hopped in my car with a friend of mine who had been involved with some of the civil rights marches in the South in the 60s. We grabbed a couple brooms and a couple shovels, hopped in the car and drove into South LA, or what was then called South Central LA. They said, how can we help? Where can we help clean up? And started doing cleanup detail.
Wow. Well, way to serve, way to jump in and serve your community. That's awesome. Awesome.
And it's about, I look at part of what you have in your marketing or in your show open, and you talk about inspiration and, and transformation, and it really all ties back into that. What are we willing to do? How do I get my walk in life to match those kinds of themes? Because I've been fortunate enough to have people that guided me through that inspired me, guided me through transitions. Some of them pretty rough, I guess we could say. And how to play that role for people. It's like with our company name, Adventure CEO. Part of that is creating exceptional opportunities. How do we do that for other people?
What that is very inspiring, Jeffrey, especially since listening to how you got to LA, the opportunities that presented itself there. And I love in the beginning that you said you're a recovering engineer. That's pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I was
Gets
about 2 months into the real world of engineering. I went to school. I'm a geek. I can geek out on the tech. Um, I'm better on stage doing presentation. That's what I learned in my career path. It's like, look, let me do the presentations. Let me, I have a role in that, but I'm more of a, better, marketer for it than actually the in-depth. Let me spend 20 hours today focusing on writing the code and getting it right for programming kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, it only took me a couple months on the job, and I was looking around and going, I love motorcycling. I like going to the beach. I want to be out in the mountains. I love to explore. Love being on the water or in the water. And I'm now living right next to it when I used to be landlocked. So I'm going to spend the rest of my life working 70, 80 hours a week inside of a windowless building. It's like,
Yeah.
Why didn't I, I wasn't listening when they said the word internships in, career planning in high school.
Well, I think sometimes, we well, obviously when we're in high school, first of all, we don't have our adult brains yet to really process that big, right? And then we're too stubborn to listen to our elders who try to guide us because we're like, we know it, or at least that's the way I was, and I feel like
Yep.
I was an American kid with those American thoughts, and that was kind of like, don't tell me what to do. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. But what's really amazing is that I do not believe that anything is of a coincidence. So sometimes, even
Right.
though we may not have thought it through completely, it was like that was a step you were supposed to take, because had you not, you wouldn't have come out to LA and experienced what you experienced, and then the other opportunities that came along after that may not have opened up. And so it was absolutely where you were supposed to be at the time, and it was for a season. And so that is that is inspiring. So what I'm hearing from you is that if there is an opportunity and adventure placed before you, would you say we should take it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if there's a little bit of danger involved.
Little
Nothing focuses the mind like jumping off of a bridge with nothing but a rubber band attached to your waist.
I bet. Are you kind of an adrenaline junkie too?
A little bit. I'm an adrenaline junkie that totally does not trust technology, even established technology. Now, I've been bungee jumping a few times. It's not a hobby. I couldn't say I've done it enough to be a hobby, but I've been more than once, jumped a couple of times. And that is one of my main lessons from doing that, is going, I really do not trust tech. I can watch 50 other people jump and know, okay, this is fine. The crew, like, for example, there's a company that runs a bungee jumping service at a place called the Bridge to Nowhere, northeast of Los Angeles. They have been jumping from that bridge every weekend since 1989 with no accidents and certainly no fatalities. I know that. That's why I chose them. The 5-mile hike in and out is treacherous, and I've been injured. A friend of mine had a compound fracture of his femur. They're airlifting people out of there all the time. That's a different story. That, how crazy is that, right? Jumping off the bridge is the safe part of the day. But so I get there, I know all of that. I watch other people, I watch the people that are running the jump test the rigs by jumping themselves. They jump first to make sure everything's set and golden before having a customer do it. I watch other people jump. Then it comes my turn, and I'm like going, I do not trust this stuff to work coming off the bridge. So it's a very revealing moment, and it's a great experience. But yeah, it's when we experience adventure, it can be very revealing. I know I learn a lot about myself, and in good ways and in ways going, okay, I need to work on that. It's like came away from bungee jumping going, you know what, need to work on the trust thing a little bit. Wow. Okay.
Can you imagine being the employee that tests the bungee jump in the beginning just to make sure it's working okay? What thoughts
I
must go through
cannot,
your head?
not, I'm good. I'm good for adrenaline driven fun. That's a step too far for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it reminds me of the time when I was in dental hygiene school. So we're learning how to give oral injections. And guess who
Oh,
gets to be the first patients? Yeah, each other, right? And then your partner's never done this ever before. All we have done was read the book and our teacher lectured on it. But as far as practical skills go, that person on the other end, and then you're watching and your hands like shaking like this going into the mouth. And so anyway, so
oh
by the
man.
time I had a real patient and they were really nervous, I would tell them, you think this is bad. You should have been you should have been there when you were, my very, very first patient. At least I've done this several times prior. So anyway, just kind of
Well,
brought that funny
and the
story.
use of, I like hearing that story. I mean, that's a fun story. The thing is, though, it also highlights the power of having a little bit of humor, finding the humor in the moment, and being able to use that in tense situations, in when asking hard questions in business.
Right.
And that was, from some of the adventure stuff. That's where I learned that. And where we're doing a little bit of gallows humor or banter back and forth on motorcycle trips or when out hiking, playing sports, whatever it might be. And that makes a big difference to be able to bring that to the table and bring that into the conversation when doing something that you can see is uncomfortable for someone else, and be able to find that humor in the moment and get them to chuckle and watch. Isn't that a golden moment? You watch them and go, yeah, they chuckle a bit and like, okay, I'm ready now.
Now I'm beginning to see why you say you're a recovering engineer, because engineers typically have the personality is that they don't have a sense of humor, always serious. There's no laughing matter. We got to get stuff done. And so what you're saying is just about any experience you have, and if you go out and have fun, there's a lesson in it, and there's a growth factor that can be there that you can apply to life. So go ahead and go out and laugh a little and experience life a little. Is that pretty much what you
Oh,
are
absolutely.
telling us to do?
Absolutely. And I got that from my dad. My parents were Depression era kids. And it always amazed me how they and their friends would talk about how hard it was during the Great Depression. And before they took a breath, they started talking about the funny, crazy, stupid stuff they did and how much fun they had. And like going, okay, so lesson being tough times, laugh your way through it, and their whole thing was, look, what are you going to do? You can laugh or cry. How do you want to live? It's like life's a lot more
Very
fun, a lot more interesting with the laughter, and being able to do that does make it attracts other people. That was another life lesson I didn't get till I was older that my dad taught me. He was like, look, you can cry alone or you can laugh and other people will laugh with you. And my experience has been not only laugh, but they'll like gather around, and it just makes for a much richer, fuller life.
And I believe it also helps you to be healthier, because if you're all play,
Yes.
I know there's that saying, all work and no play makes you a dull boy, but it also makes you a sickling person. I think, when you
Yeah.
have so much
Yeah.
stress in your life, it can really bring on a lot of other slew of health issues and that sort of thing. And laughter can certainly help alleviate many of that, boost the immune system. I believe there's many research out there that show that it stimulates the
Mm-hmm.
immune system. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes, it does.
very,
There's a famous story, and I forget the gentleman that did it, who's somebody that was well known in his time, and it was, within the last 50 years or so, that was given just a crisis level stage 4 cancer diagnosis. He went to multiple doctors and said, "All right, fine, I'm done with you." He's like, "Okay, I understand why you're called practicing." and he rented a whole bunch of movies and literally laughed himself back to health.
Wow.
Now that's a as you're watching this, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on radio or live stream. It's a story of one person's journey, but it was documented. The doctors are going, we don't know what happened, but I think that also was one of the catalysts for doing more research to going, look, we need to understand how laughter and joy affects people from a physiology standpoint, a biological standpoint, which has helped us understand and going, yeah, you know what? If we're laughing and enjoying the journey, we're a lot healthier along the way. I interact with other people a lot more. All work and no play for me makes me a psychotic threat to my neighbors. Right? It's
We
just,
don't want that.
I'm joking when I say that, but it's my life experience has been when I live like that, then I'm not my life loses value because it's just gray. It's just drudgery. I'm grinding it out every day. And I am then not valuing my life, which then shows in how I deal with other people. Right.
Yes.
I'm not finding the humor in the moment and making someone else laugh. I don't have the self-awareness, my emotional, what do they call it now? The famous EQ. Right. So my emotional quotient is going into the basement. And I'm not, not paying attention to other people. I don't see that someone else is having a tough day. So I don't have the self-awareness to stop and go, hey, what's up? You don't want to go, oh, I'm fine, to instead of letting it pass, go, no, I know you're not fine. That's why I asked. Come here, sit down. Let's talk for a minute and have that kind of heart to heart. I wouldn't be enjoying, making other people laugh and enjoy their day.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is wonderful that you have discovered that. And I appreciate you sharing that with the audience, because I know for me, definitely, I tend to be all serious a lot and really have to work on, trying to just enjoy the moments. Because let's go from destination A to destination B, and we don't have time to smell the flowers because we have a timeline and we have a deadline or whatever it is, and we got to get there. And thankfully, my husband is more, let's stop and smell the flowers. And I'm glad he's around to balance me out a little bit, because otherwise it's so easy to miss the journey along the way and how beautiful, and the lessons that you can learn along the way. So it's not necessarily getting to destination B as quickly as possible, although you need to eventually get there, but to really stop and enjoy and have some laughter and really take in those moments. So thank you so much, Jeffrey, for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And by the way, I do enjoy your Wolfe's Watch live stream. I don't always get to be there right when you're doing it, but I enjoy that you kind of take us for, an adventure. It's like, it's your adventures and you're taking us along. So keep at it, my friend. I really get inspired when you're doing it. I know sometimes you're like, is anybody even watching? But we are. There are people out there
I greatly
watching.
appreciate that. Yes.
So let's get into Perform or Perish. Tell us what made you decide to write this, since this case study was years back, and why now? Why did you decide to go ahead and write this and publish it?
Well, we've been living in just some incredible times the last several years. We had the great lockdown. Pivot was the big word that's still used a lot. Say, hey, what do you do? So you can't open today, can't have customers come in. One of my mentors is in the hotel industry, and he's like going, yeah, I have a chain of hotels with no income for 6 months. How do you respond to that? So and the fallout of that has continued. It's like, well, when we need to have a rapid change within a company, how do we go about that? And then what do we do to keep? It's like 3 years in from the great lockdown, most business owners have pivoted multiple times. And it's like, all right, now what? We need to change again in order to keep our business, keep the doors open, to keep growing. In some cases, how do we scale up? So I looked at it and said, here's some lessons that I can share from that particular case study that draw on, a couple decades of work that put me in a position to be able to lead that effort. And I wanted to share those lessons and do it in a way that wasn't, Hughes Aircraft gave me an opportunity to study for my MBA at Pepperdine University. That was another inflection point in my life, in terms of how I thought, my experience, looking at stuff. I got to study under some incredible people. And the problem with that is now, not only am I a recovering engineer, but I also have been constantly working to keep the MBA speak out of my language. And I worked in the aerospace industry for nearly 2 decades. And that, in aerospace, and when you spend any time around the military, you get very familiar with TLAs, which are 3-letter acronyms, because they've got an acronym for everything. So it's like how to take those lessons, information that is published in business publications and business schools is usually geared more towards bigger companies and institutions. But how's that relevant for small businesses? And in the book, here's a case where we took it's a larger small business, but still a small business, where one of the neat things, and one of the reasons I love working with small businesses, is when we find something that works, we can implement change fast and scale it fast, where really large organizations have their own inertia and timeframes. It can be frustratingly slow. And that was why I wanted to release that book now. It's like going, look, here's something that, with all of the change that's continuing that we're all experiencing as a business owner, this is practical. It's based on something that is real. It's not a made up. It's not a, hey, you should do this. It's like, look, here's what we did here. Here's how you can apply that to your business.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you took the time to go ahead and write that. So you want to maybe give us a little teaser as to what's in the book? And by the way, where can someone order this book?
They can order it from Amazon.com. We're available in Kindle and print. I'm working on the audio version of the book. And actually, since they're watching your show, if they reach out to us at the email address that we'll review, thank you very much. So email me at perform@adventureceo.com, and we'll send a copy of the audio so they can listen to it, no charge. Because if they're supporting your show, want to give them something to say, hey, that's a wise choice, and we appreciate it, because I love your show too. You do a great interview series.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for, blessing our viewers on this show. So you guys definitely get a hold of Jeffrey, perform@adventureceo.com. Get a hold of this book and tell your friends about it. And then when you read it, write a review on it as well.
Please.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated.
Yeah. So give us a little teaser. What's in this book that really, will get us to really want to read the whole from book to cover, from front page to back page.
Well, there's a whole chapter called BTS, Behind the Scenes, a Baker's Dozen, and that's 13 things like going, here's stuff that just, things that I learned afterwards. And we're going, you know what, if I did this over again, here's some things I would change, some mistakes that I made that could have totally derailed the effort, but didn't, and why it didn't. So that, I think that brings a lot more value. Didn't want it to be all just happy-go-lucky stories and going, wow, this went great. In the BTS chapter, there's one thing of the 13 that I want to share that can just really alter the culture of a company. And it ties into something that you said earlier, Zena, about reviewing our experiences. And, it's all in personal development. There's always the counsel, the advice to go, look, journal, review your day, review your week, learn from your life's experience. Something that I learned from started at Hughes Aircraft. Really, a lot of I'm surrounded by military and retired military personnel, and something that's practiced in the military is after action reviews. It's like companies that do, and Hughes Aircraft did this. They called them out briefs. It was like after every meeting, after every major thing that they did, except for maybe parking your car or taking a bio break during the day, they would say, okay, now that we're done with this, they always budget time in meetings to say, let's review how we're doing. How'd the meeting go? What can we do better? What needs to be fixed? Are we ready to go? Being able to do that within our companies as a business owner, to be able to every day say, okay, how did this day go? At the end of a meeting, go, okay, how's the meeting going? What are we missing? It makes such a huge difference, and it shifts the mindset of the entire team to start thinking about, what are we learning from what we're doing? How can we improve it? One thing that gets missed a lot, and I missed this for years, it's understanding, what am I doing that's actually working well, so that I know more what to do more of. It's like, as engineers, we're trained to look at what's the downside. It's all about risk management. How do we keep planes from falling out of the sky? How do things of that nature? So it's all, how do we keep the negative from happening with the systems that we're creating? But it's easy to miss this works. It becomes easy, it becomes routine, so we don't particularly value it over time, and we forget why that's important. But we also forget to go, hey, you know what? This really works, so we want to make sure this stays at the top of the list of stuff we should be doing, while we're creating the other list of stuff that we need to fix or stop doing. In AARs, after action reviews, applied to like everything you can possibly apply it to, makes a huge shift in that within the company, and it shifts how people think and interact with each other. And it also makes it a lot easier to have a clearly safe environment for people to raise their hand and go, hey, what about this? That's truly a powerful day. I worked for a really large Fortune 100 company at the time. They don't exist anymore. The Fortune 100 company at the time, in one of their major business units, where we had 12,000 people working at that business unit. One of the key executives said, when I asked him, why did you stop the employee suggestion system? He's like, well, we waste too much time reading through stuff that isn't applicable. It's just they're idiots. We don't have time for it. I'm like, going, got 12,000 people, all highly paid, all highly experienced at what they do, and you're not willing to wade through we can't really use that as suggestions to get to the handful of ones that are going to really be golden. And you're not willing to take that step to honor the message that the same person was putting out and going, yeah, we value you as employees. We value your ideas. We're not just hiring your hands. We want to hire your minds. Like going, but yet in your private office, you're saying, they're too stupid. I don't want to listen to the dumb stuff they come up with in the employee suggestions. It's like, wow. Okay, then that's one of the key values of the employee suggestion system. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of noise to sort through to find the handful of signal, if you will. Engineering term, signal to noise, right? Signals are, what do we really want? There's a lot of what we don't want to find it. The bigger impact of that is now the employees are going, wow, okay, we really are part of this, right? The owners, the leaders, they really do want to hear from us. And it is a huge change. It's a huge impact on the culture of the work environment and the work experience.
Wow, that's awesome. I really like that you really broke that down and explained all that, because you're right, those things are important to kind of observe and apply. Not even just, I guess, observing, but to actually apply what you've learned, and that's how we can grow as a business, but also probably personally too. That's kind of what we have to continue to do, which is great. So thank you so much for that. And the other thing too, with perform or perish, I like that it actually is a simple read. It's not intimidating at whatsoever, that you really keep it very simple, and it is a very inspiring case study that you have here. And again, I really love the title, perform or perish. It's like the other side of the do or die, or ride or die, perform or perish. You either going to have to swim or sink. You got to get, you just need to get out there and do it. So, awesome.
That 30-day race truly was a 30-day race. The owners of the company had decided to close it. They were going to close and move operations out of California, and none of the people that worked there were going to go with them. Right? They weren't even going to be offered. It's like, we're just going to close down. So there's 180 people that were working for that company. And depending on whose numbers you review, and this is all included in the book and it's cited so people can dig into it for more research, but a manufacturing job supports about 7 other jobs at other companies. So if we have 180 people working at the company, which is the number that we use, we changed some of the numbers to hide the identity of the company, but 180 employees times 7. And then if you've got 5 people in each one of those families that's represented, say 2 spouses, a child or 2, maybe a grandparent, other extended families. So we figure average of 5 people per family. That's 6,300 people that are impacted by that decision to close that company. So the owners of the company said, look, if you can prove to us in 30 days that it makes more sense to keep the company open than to move it, we'll consider changing our decision. And that was our 30-day race. And within 30 days, we demonstrated that we could get a 40% increase in productivity, and there's a chapter that walks through all the numbers on this, all the financials, but that had a huge impact on profitability. So they went from well below average for their industry on profitability to well above and one of the leaders in their industry. And we're making it happen fast. And I'm like going, wow, okay. And there's stories from each one of the major conversations that we had along the way. That was something else I wanted to include in the book, so that it's not a textbook. It's not an engineer's perspective on things. It was each chapter leads with a story that highlights what was going on at the time. And some of it was pretty brutal. I mean, I had one of the employees tried to poison me to stop what we were doing. And that's included for more on that, read the book. But crazy things happen, right? Crazy things happen when you're messing with people's livelihoods because it affects their family. And it's just like asking somebody this is one of the things that I started using as a teaching point in working with that company, is every time you ask somebody to change how they're going about their work routine, it's like asking them to step over the railing on a bridge to the wrong side and leap off of the bridge with you. It's the exact same emotional and biochemistry response for that person. The intensity of it varies based on the individual, but also on how big of a change you're asking them to make. And in this case, we were asking people to make massive changes and to do it on faith and to do it today. And that led to some interesting reactions. It also meant that I'll leave that part of the story there. Well, it was we did it fast. And that was why I wanted to weave the stories in. I go, look, here's what the reality of doing something like this at your company will be like. Expect this. Here's the good, the bad, and the surprising. So be prepared. And whatever you do, one of the key themes in the book is set your objective, know what your mission is, and never, ever, ever let go of that or vary from it. In order to make that work for you, you have to be completely flexible on how you get there. All right, you have to take the employee suggestions because they'll keep you from running off the road, running the company into a ditch, so to speak, by making in terms of how you get from where you're at today to where you need to be. And in that case, at the end of 30 days.
Wow. That's awesome. So this is not an isolated company either. You help companies do better and perform better. That is what you do. And so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, again, to help them with their company, they can also email you at perform@adventureco.com, correct?
Absolutely. And that comes directly to me. It's not going to some email campaign or some call center or someone. That comes to me, and be more than happy to share the audio, the audio version of the book as a way of saying thanks for being part of American Dream Makers. And also, if you've got questions or want to have some dialogue, more than happy to have that conversation too.
Yeah, and I love audiobooks because uh, audiobooks are just it's nice because you can sit in the car and basically read a book, audibly. And so I get through books a lot faster that way. And
Mhm.
because sitting down and reading, well, for me anyways, I'm a slower reader, so it takes longer to get through it. But I
Yep,
love the
me too.
audio. Yeah, I love the audiobooks for sure because I'm like, oh yeah, I can absorb the information at a faster rate. So thank you so much for offering that. That's really, really generous of you. And I really enjoyed having you here and just telling us about who you are and where you've been and what has inspired you to just continue to help others. And so Jeffrey, you are a fantastic human being with a big, generous heart. And the more I get to know you, the more I just like, I'm so glad to call you friend. And so I'm saying this because to the viewers that out there that don't know Jeffrey, get a hold of him because he truly is a nice guy, really wants to help. And so if you've got questions, I mean, he is just so generous with his time and his resources. Even if he can help you, he will. That's the kind of guy he is. So, and he's obviously has a lot of experience and a wealth of knowledge. So, uh, thank you again for helping so many have the American dream and go beyond. You truly are an American dream maker and an inspiration. So keep the good fight going, my friend. You are an inspiration for sure. So before we take off, is there anything else you want to leave us with today?
Well, yes. Watch Zena's show. Be part of the American Dream Makers community because you're truly walking your talk on that. And I appreciate that wonderful compliment. And I'll tell you, I'm just following in your footsteps, following your example as well. And that's one of the reasons, like you, I don't believe in coincidences. And I think that was partly why we had a chance to meet, get to know you, getting to know Chris as well, your husband. Phenomenal individual. And I appreciate that because it makes my life richer, but also we get to have a bigger impact together. So
Yes.
as you're watching this, you're in the right place. Stay with Zena and her community, come alongside her and get to know her and the other people that are part of her community, because like attracts like, in the sense that people that are running fast, having a big impact, that have a serving heart, that are servant leaders, like working with each other. So when you meet someone like Zena, you're going to find a lot more people like that. And you're also, Zena, are very good about sharing resources and connecting people as well.
Oh, you are so kind. It just, again, just reflects what kind of guy Jeffrey is. And by the way, another example. So Jeffrey, I was very last minute. I had an event speaking on a thought leaders panel at Tim Story Live up in LA area, Bel Air. And I messaged Jeffrey and I said, I don't know what you're doing, but if you'd like to come, I'd love to have you there. And he pretty much made it happen, and he showed up. And those of you who have not been to LA, and I'm sure you've heard, but things take longer to get through, to get from one destination to another. So it wasn't like Jeffrey was just 5 minutes away. Like he literally drove almost 2 hours to support me, as my adventure was happening, as the opportunities were given to me. And so that meant a lot to me, Jeffrey. And I really appreciate that you did that. And it was so wonderful to have that support. And yeah, I agree. I think so many times we think that we have to go it alone, especially when we're starting new adventures or doing something new, that we got to figure this out on our own. But when you belong to a community, and another great community is Grow Live. I mean, that's really where Jeffrey and
Mm-hmm.
I met, was to Grow Live. And when you have communities like that, you feel like you can soar. And that's also why, hiring coaches such as
Yes.
Jeffrey, out there makes such a big difference in taking things to the next level. So thank you so much for that heartfelt, genuine plug in there. Really appreciate you so much, Jeffrey. And I wish you all the best. Everyone, get out there and get a copy of Perform at adventureceo.com. And you can get that Audible book, but also hop on Amazon and order your hard copy of Perform or Perish, because I always think it's great to have a hard copy too. So even though I enjoy Audible books, I also enjoy having the hard copy. There's nothing like being able to just get your fingers, and smell the pages. I mean, you can read the Kindles and all that, and I'm glad that those are out there. But honestly, having this, at your coffee table, these are conversational pieces, because it does inspire, when you're kind of glancing at it, and you have guests in your home. So anyways, want to encourage you to go to amazon.com and get your copy. And just thank you so much for being here again, Jeffrey, for taking time out of your day. Really appreciate you sharing your nuggets of wisdom experience. So I guess I'll say goodbye for now. It's always hard for me to just say goodbye to my guests, because I'm having so much fun on these things, and I'm like, oh, it's time to go already.
Yeah, it's like, what? Wait a minute. No, it can't be. No, I'm enjoying the conversation too much.
I know it.
It
But
goes fast. It's like, wow, this was a fun, good conversation.
It goes by very fast. And yes, it was a very good conversation, but we will have more conversations, Jeffrey. I promise.
I look forward to that.
It's just bye for now. So thank you again. And I will say goodbye for now. Again, as I feel like there's like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of goodbye sometimes. But anyway, for real this time, goodbye. Have a wonderful day. And we will see you next time, Jeffrey. Thank you guys for being here and joining us on American Dream Makers. And definitely get a hold of Jeffrey on Perform at adventureceo.com. And if you are watching the replay, please be sure to also share this out. He's got a great message and a wonderful heart. So I will say goodbye to you as well, and have a wonderful, blessed day. And we will see you next time on American Dream Makers.